and you were telling me a journey from Mumbai to New York, right? How does it feel for a tier 2 city guy to suddenly get into metro and stuck there?
And essentially got carried away, not realizing that this is very personal information. It may not be a big deal, but it is still personal information. And when the news traveled back, the gentleman was visibly upset, saying, how does it matter and why is my personal detail a topic of discussion outside? So they cordoned off the whole space. Housekeeping came in with a vacuum cleaner. And in the vacuum cleaner pipe where the suction happens, they put a handkerchief kind of a thing. They vacuumed the carpet. Luckily, the diamond had fallen right there on the carpet.
Many of the industries are nowadays impacted because of the war that is going on, right? I'm not sure, and there's a truce right now, but I don't know how long it will stay. But what would you say the impact of that in India at the hospital industry?
One of the most visible impacts was when the LPG availability became an issue.
The LPG crisis has brought daily life to a standstill across the nation.
We have waited days for it. How are we supposed to?
A lot of corporates, and I don't blame them, what else can they do? They are adopting a wait and watch attitude. Certain values that are very important. The first one is making sure you select the best. So finding the right talent. The other thing is making sure you take care of them. So that's how the Ahuja culture has grown over time.
Hello everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Culture Beat by Incredible Workplaces. Today we have Mr. Rudra with us, who is the COO of Ahuja Residency, the hotel division. First of all, welcome Mr. Rudra to the show.
Thank you, Govind.
And I was, before this podcast, like in the pre-podcast, we were talking about your own journey, how you came from a small village to metros. And you were telling me a journey from Mumbai to New York, right? How does it feel for a tier 2 city guy to suddenly get into metro and stuck there? What's your opinion there?
It's an incredible experience because when you're in a small town, you're eager to step out and see the world. You're eager to achieve something on your own. And small towns in India have their own culture. Generally, everyone knows everyone almost.
Yes.
And then when you come to a metro city, when you get to do things, of course, it's a great sense of fulfillment. But then the grind takes over, you get into the corporate rat race, and you start living life.
So have you enjoyed this journey so far?
Absolutely. I have loved every part of it. More than anything else, because I believe I've been fortunate enough to do something that I love. So it gives me great pleasure working with people, and hospitality industry is all about working with. And so I've had an absolutely fantastic time, no regrets, and I look forward to each day when I wake up and I get ready to go to work.
Awesome. And 3 decades you have spent in hospitality industry. In hospitality industry, so we have seen it more from a client side, right? We go to hotels, stay in the hotels, and many a times we see awesome people that we interact with, right? But there's always a saying that when you see the front of the house looks very clean, the backyard is always the dirty one. So let me ask you, from the employer side of it, do you see the culture in hospitality industry is actually at the peak, is the best, or you believe that we see a very great hospitality at the front, but sometimes the culture at the back is not that great? What's your take on that?
So it depends. And honestly, companies that endure, companies that build a legacy and a brand, they generally get it right, because it's difficult to build something lasting without getting your culture right. So you were talking about cleanliness. The story that comes to my mind, even after 3 decades, is something that happened in the first few weeks. I was a trainee at Taj Residency Aurangabad. This is way back in 1993. And I was standing there scared at the reception. And someone from the corporate office in Bombay was there, very senior gentleman, regional vice president level. And he was in the lobby. At some point of time, he comes to reception and he says, "Do you have tissues?" I said, "Yes." I thought maybe he wants to wipe his fingers or something. I gave him the tissue box. He pulled out 3, 4. And I'm watching him. He walks over to one of the coffee tables in the lobby. There was an ashtray. In those days, you could still smoke inside hotels. So someone had used the ashtray and there was cigarette butts and cigarette ash. So he picks it, covers it, picks it up, walks to the nearest dustbin, empties it out, wipes it with the tissues, puts the tissue in the dustbin, and walks off. And I'm standing there watching that this is someone who was in the corporate office. He didn't come and tell me, "Call housekeeping, get the ashtray cleaned." So the radical difference was when it comes to building culture, at least from my perspective. Do you just talk the talk or do you walk the walk?
Very good.
Do you simply create slogans and put up posters, or do you lead by example? And invariably, I have seen the best places are places where people actually walk the walk. From the doorman to the chairman, everyone commits to the values and lives those values. That's what makes the good companies remarkable.
That's really awesome. Great story. And as we stick to that, normally hotels and the people in the hotels are known for their integrity, right? And integrity is a very key element of the work culture of the organization. Do you remember any story where integrity was at its best? Like this cleaning one is the great one. So integrity was at its best. I'm sure in 30 years you might have many, but any one story that comes to your mind?
I have to be careful what I talk about, because the best hotels are places where people go. All kinds of people, celebrities, heads of state, politicians, builders, businessmen, and they let their guard down.
Correct.
And the remarkable thing is you won't get the scoops or the inside stories from hoteliers. There is a code to being a hotelier. You don't let out what happens inside. It's a small thing, but if hoteliers were to start talking, you would get to hear a lot. Yeah, but if I were to give you an example, at least in the company that I am working, we have a lot of long-term stay people. Someone who's staying for 6 months, year. There are people that have stayed for 3 years, 4 years. They'll probably take up an apartment or a suite. And over a period of time, sometimes, staff builds a level of familiarity. And they have to be careful. We had a British gentleman at one of our facilities, grew very fond of the staff, and essentially one of the staff members stepped out and was discussing what was there in the room and, personal articles and stuff like that. And essentially got carried away, not realizing that this is very personal information. It may not be a big deal, but it is still personal information. And when the news traveled back, the gentleman was visibly upset, saying, "How does it matter, and why is my personal detail a topic of discussion outside?" And sometimes it can be as simple as house boys or housekeepers and security guards chatting and finding something interesting. So we had to do an intervention. We did an investigation, and we addressed it with the employee.
Yeah, I think most of the time people will say that, like if I go to the hotel, I would never think that if even my purse is on the I just go and say clean the room, no worries, because that is what the level of confidence that people have built. Any story where you have seen great integrity, right? People have found something or they actually returned it to, and people were like, wow, with that. Any story that comes to your mind? I'm sure there are many.
That kind of thing happens a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. But okay, I'll share with you something which was on those lines, but very shocking when it happened. So this was a Sunday morning and a wedding group was checking out. and the bride was in the lobby, seeing off some of her relatives and stuff. And one of the girls at reception was chatting with her and very friendly, excited about getting married. So she tells the guest, this was in United States, she says, "Show me your rock, the wedding ring." So the bride very nicely put her hand forward, thinking she's showing her diamond. The girl at reception is seeing an empty ring. The diamond was missing. So she paused for 5 seconds and said, "But where's the diamond?" And when the bride looked at it, she was like, "Oh my God, it was just here." She started crying, and credit to the young lady who was there at reception. She called housekeeping immediately. She said, "When was the last time you saw it on your ring?" So the bride said, "I was sitting right here in the lobby and talking to my relatives, and I was showing them, and it was there." So they cordoned off the whole space. Housekeeping came in with a vacuum cleaner. And in the vacuum cleaner pipe where the suction happens, they put a handkerchief kind of a thing. They vacuumed the carpet. Luckily, the diamond had fallen right there on the carpet, got picked up.
Wow, that's really amazing. I think these are the stories that builds a trust that you have, and I think that also talks about the culture, right? That lady you are just speaking, the young lady that you're speaking about, she could have taken some other decisions that she could, but I think the culture is like, as you just said, that it is always about walk the talk and showcase, and I think she got the right kind of training to exhibit that same kind of behavior.
Right.
Awesome. Let's switch a little bit to hospitality industry and the impact that you see right now. So many of the industries are nowadays impacted because of the war that is going on, right? I'm not sure, and there's a truce right now, but I don't know how long it will stay. But what would you say the impact of that in India at the hospital industry?
There has definitely been an impact. It's a layered impact. So one of the most visible impacts was when the LPG availability became an issue. We transitioned in most of our places to induction cooking. Other than that, we've definitely seen a dip in hotel occupancies. For the month of March compared to last year same time, there is at least a 10% drop. More than anything else, it pertains to two things. One is the flight disruptions. Second, a lot of corporates, and I don't blame them, what else can they do? They are adopting a wait and watch attitude. So when it is things like major capex or new project launches, they are holding back and watching the situation. So meetings, conferences, business trips, they are now dwindling down. It is done when it is absolutely necessary. And big ticket items are being reviewed and reconsidered and maybe even deferred in some cases. So we've taken a hit, definitely.
So there is an impact that you see that impact still going on, or you see that okay, now the situation is popping up. How's it? We see a lot of things on news, but let's hear from you then.
So March figures were lower than last year same time. April, we have seen a good month till now. But like I said, it's a wait and watch situation. So we continue to wait and watch. And like you said, we don't know how long the peace will hold. Hopefully, it is here to endure, because the India growth story is a very strong growth story. The corporate sector is very strong in India. And for the foreseeable future, I don't see any reason why it should slow down. So we are betting on the India growth story.
Yeah, as you're talking about that, I think one thing I wanted to ask is the future of hospitality industry in India, right? I know Ahuja is growing. I know that you're opening up at multiple places. Maybe we can talk about that also a little bit. Where do you see hotel industry 5 to 10 years? Like, you really see a lot of more hotels to come, and how this business is going to work out?
Absolutely. So that's a very interesting question. Growth is already at a high pitch and is going to continue, because I told you about the India growth story. A lot of things are falling into place for India, whether it be manufacturing, and especially programs that the government comes out with, like performance linked incentives, the PLI schemes, the electronics manufacturer, the defense industry that is picking up. All of that is helping the India growth story. Coming specifically to hospitality, the room count in India, despite everything, still, if you compare it to Thailand, Bangkok, or some of the more mature destinations, or you compare it to China, we have tremendous scope to grow. What is interesting about this growth is, and especially if someone is watching this industry over decades, is the fragmentation that is happening. So in the good old days, there was, Taj, Oberoi's, ITC, and people would buy land, put up a building, and run a hotel. Then came the asset-light model. The international chains came in, the Hyatt, Hilton, Marriott, and the industry went through a transition. I think the big disruption started happening when Airbnb became a thing. So now the choices available to a customer, whether it be a B&B, whether it be a guest house in Gurgaon, whether it is serviced apartments, whether it is non-branded space that I'm talking about. And in recent times, one of the big success stories, if you look at how a brand was grown from scratch, is Sarovar. Eventually sold it to an international company, but it's remarkable what Mr. Ajay Bakaya did with growing up a phenomenal brand. What is happening with Lemon Tree, what Mr. Keswani is doing, Padu Keswani is doing. I think there'll be a lot more of these. There is tremendous scope. There is a niche for growth because the brands, whether it be international or Indians, will fight it out at the upper end.
Yeah.
But India is driven by the middle class consumption. And the middle class always, especially Indian middle class, otherwise everywhere, looks for the best deal they can drive. And the kind of deal that the homegrown brands, these new brands can drive, that is something that, is something to watch out for in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I see Ahuja also growing, Ahuja Residency also growing. And I know that you're coming up with a facility in Pune also, if I'm not wrong.
Absolutely.
Tell me about Ahuja and what's Ahuja's plan in coming future?
Sure. So currently we operate for the hotel division, although that's a smaller division in Ahuja. Our service apartment business is considerably larger. Okay. But we have 17 operating units. So we have one in Noida, 2 in Delhi. We have 3 in Pune and the rest in Gurgaon.
Okay.
So we also have a new property we expect to open in Haridwar by the end of this year. That will be followed by a 153-room property in Baner in Pune, which is going to be our third hotel.
Nice.
We have 2 projects in Bangalore, right off the Outer Ring Road. One is in Belendur on the Sarjapur Road stretch when you exit the Outer Ring Road. And the second one is in Whitefield, great location. What we represent is legacy and we represent continuity. As Ahuja Residency, we've been around for 44 years and counting. And that matters to a lot of owners because what we stand for consistently is when owners partner with us, they can validate it by speaking to any owner that we have been working with. Their assets are extremely well maintained. And the second part is we commit to a business the way a big portion of our inventory is also owned by the Ahuja family. So they look after someone else's leased asset or a management contract asset, just the way they would look after their own property, which is a great thing. So whether it be profitability, cost sensitivity, maintenance, repair, housekeeping, and owners do appreciate that because there is many stories out there where owners participated with someone who promised the stars and the moon. And few years later, a few months later, they got back the asset in pathetic shape and all the promises broken.
Yeah, it's like any landlord would want that tenant to return the property in the same shape as opposed to spoiling it.
Exactly.
Now, talking about like the focus of Ahuja, whether it's on property or leased from someone else, the care you guys take care from a housekeeping and maintenance and client services perspective. Now, and you're also growing out like everywhere in India right now, and the culture, the kind of people in those cities are very different, very diverse culture they come from. How do you maintain that consistency of services that you are giving in all the different properties of Ahuja remains the same? What's your philosophy, strategy, thought process there?
That is probably the most difficult part of running a hotel. I'm not saying that putting up or building a hotel is easy, or you can get it done. You can hire great architects, you can put the funding and put up a great building. But being able to consistently provide a great experience is a whole different ballgame. And it's a never ending thing. It's each day, every day. How do we get it right? We get it right by committing to it with certain values that are very important. The first one is making sure you select the best. And it is important to make sure once you select someone, we do select a lot of times for talent. It's not always experience. This is not rocket science. A lot of what we do can be learned. But is the person coming into that role people oriented? Not everyone is expected to do everything. If it is someone who's not people oriented, they are not going to be happy. They're going to be miserable. So finding the right talent, and once you bring them up, giving them the training, which, like I said, is a never-ending thing. You're doing it continuously. The other thing is making sure you take care of them. So a lot of times, a lot of the frontline workforce, especially that actually delivers the experience, is youngsters, fresh out of school, fresh out of college. And potentially it is their first job. In a lot of cases, it is their first job when they come to us. They are also someone's children, someone's son, someone's daughter. It is important to understand and know that they are looked after, whether it is their accommodations, their food. And that's how, the Ahuja culture has grown over time, where you almost become a part of the family, where it is important for us that you are taken care of. In good times and in bad, we do understand that when parents are sending their young sons and young daughters to work with us, it's almost like a sacred responsibility that we take good care of them. The next part that is important is the clarity. So nobody, in my opinion, wakes up in the morning and decides, I'm going to mess things up today. Let's see how much fun it is. Everyone wakes up and wants to go and do an honest day's job and come back. If they have clarity in terms of what they need to do, how they need to do, and if they have the tools to do their job, you can get out of their way and they will execute. That's where the greatest responsibility from the leadership side comes in. To create clarity for the frontline person, you have to create clear job roles. You have to train for it. And finally, you have to inspect what you expect. So even at the chairperson's level in our company, Mrs. Ahuja will drop in randomly at a property. She'll go and check rooms. She'll go and check public area washrooms. She might walk into the store and she will make a special effort to see if there is any expired product still sitting on the shelves. So that is the remarkable thing. It's a lot of effort and it never ends. You got to keep doing it. If you enjoy it, you'll have a lot of fun. If you don't, you ought to honestly do something else.
No, I think it's a very valid point, and it's one of the toughest things that when somebody is joining in your organization, or either whether a fresher or somebody coming from some other properties and they have a different culture, you might like to establish a very different culture. I think L&D plays a very critical role where you need to make sure that these people understand what your hotel stands for. At the same time, the continuous learning process is given. To me, it's already sound like an incredible workplaces, because I think that's where we believe that organizations should not only just expect people to do a job, but also participate in making them a success, a very key factor. And people kind of recognize this, right?
So the remarkable thing with Ahuja is if you walk into our properties and talk to the staff that's there, You will find people that have been around for 6 years, 8 years, 12 years, 16 years. Hospitality industry is known for high rates of turnover. But at Ahuja, the tenure is pretty long. Turnover is relatively lower than the industry standards. And that is a reflection, like I said, of the values established by the founder, by the leadership, and the ownership of the company.
Yeah, and I would say a very interesting thing is that I got an opportunity to be part of the Ahuja residency that you opened in Gurgaon. It was the inauguration function that you had, and it was a terrace function.
Right.
And 1 week later, my daughter said that she's going to celebrate her birthday without us. And she wanted her friends only to be there. And we actually roamed around and looked at a lot of places that we can have her birthday party there, because we are looking for something very exclusive, not that a lot of people are coming and her friends are enjoying. And then I told my wife that maybe we should go and look at that terrace. It was really very nice.
Right.
So we said, okay, let's do that. So we went there. We took our daughter on the video call. She said, this is the perfect place. Why are you showing me other things? And that was really a value for money. My daughter was very happy. What I'm trying to say with this is that, no, I did actually experience Ahuja's Residency's hospitality and the whole process as a client. And I would say that I'm one of the satisfied client for that particular event.
Thank you very
So,
much.
of course, kudos to you guys.
Right.
Now, moving to a little bit from a culture perspective, it's a world of digital transformation, right? A lot of people are using technology to the core, right? People, of course, are important, but at the same time, there are a lot of things that you need to do. Are you also doing or planning to use digital transformation for your operation efficiency, for your guest experiences? What are those lines that Ahuja is thinking right now?
Absolutely. I mean, especially when someone is scaling up in today's world, the way the world is shaping up, it's very difficult to do it without the digital leverage that comes in. And it is built into multiple different disciplines. What we are doing most recently is, traditionally in the good old days, when we started off, there were manual checklists. So there's a restaurant opening checklist and a restaurant closing checklist and a front office AM checklist, PM checklist, and you would fill it out. What happens with a lot of checklists is, someone working there after 3 months has memorized it and they're mechanically running through. They don't necessarily read. So they pick it up at the end of the shift and tick, 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 tick.
Perfect.
So the trick that I was taught when I was at Marriott was every 3 months change the items on the checklist
So
and
that people
see if they're reading or
need
not. But what technology is doing is we are moving towards a digitized shift checklist system and task lists and ticketing and escalations and all of that. What I find remarkable about what we are adopting now is the digital infrastructure allows you to have evidence-based validation. So if you set up that this is how the bed needs to be made, today there is technology where everyone is carrying a smartphone today. Once they've made the bed, they are required to take a picture. And there is an AI that matches the picture of the bed that has been made with the standard bed and gives you a score.
Wow. This is awesome.
That's remarkable.
Yeah, this is really great. So I like the concept, and I think this is the right thing. Even if like hospital industry will always be in my view, will be a people oriented. I don't want to see robots coming up and wishing me hi, and then right. Maybe there are hotels trying to do that as well. It's they're their own USP, but it's always good to have people around you, right? And the smiling faces, and they're always ready to support. But at the same time, I think digitalization can be done at the background to ease the task of those people.
First time I saw digitization, automation was way back in the early 2000s when there were kiosks installed at Marriott's, and shortly after that I had self check-in and check-out kiosks. And there was a lot of rumors that, reception staff will be cut down and people will lose their jobs and people will do automatic check-ins. It's been 25 years, 20 years since then. Reception staff is still very much there. Front office staff is very much there. The kiosks are also there.
Yeah. Yeah, they're there to enhance
As
the experience.
conveniences.
Yeah, as experience or convenience, but not necessarily replacing them.
Right.
Talking about the technology taking jobs, I think there's a other side of the coin as well. It is nowadays becoming harder to retain the key people and the people who are very talented, right? The one you want to retain the most is the one that probably leave you faster. As you have been into 3 decades, right? You have gone through ranks and you have reached to where you are today. And I'm sure you understand as a leader the value of having the right talent in the organization. Personally, Ahuja residency wise, or your own experience of 30 years, what do you think leaders should do or organizations should do to retain those people that you really want in your organizations?
Great question. So, what I find is 2-3 things play a very important role. One that I already touched upon, which is clarity of role and empowerment, and then step out of their way. If you micromanage, it demotivates a lot of high achievers.
Correct.
So that's the starting point.
Mhm.
The second point is there tends to be, in many cases, situations where, especially positions that are difficult to fill. So, for example, a night manager, very difficult to find a good, reliable person. And especially at night, they are taking major decisions. Your entire asset, maybe 100 rooms occupied, full houses in their hands. They will handle emergencies. They will take decisions. So once you find a good person, people want to stick. And there are times when, you find a great fit for the role that you have. And this is a difficult role to fit. And you want that person there forever and forever. It doesn't work like that. So when you really think of your people as people with lives and priorities and expectations, and when you do succession planning, when you are training them for the next role, which is again a remarkable thing I saw when I came to Ahuja, where a lot of people in middle and senior management are people that started right from the bottom, including as simple a job as a security guard. And today they are managing a cluster of hotels. Starting off as a security guard, they showed the initiative and the drive to learn. And they found an environment where they were encouraged and empowered. And they kept growing and they kept growing and they kept growing. So we love to promote from within. That's a part of our core values. And when you have employees that see that there is an appreciation and encouragement, when I speak to young people that come in, a lot of times there is apprehensions and anxieties. I tell them, I was taught when I started at Taj, never be afraid to make a mistake. But be careful you don't make the same mistake again and again and again. Because the only person who does not make a mistake is the one who doesn't do anything. So the idea is, when you are doing something, especially if you are doing it for the first time or the first 2-3 times, there is a possibility you'll make a mistake. In almost every case, it is possible to fix those mistakes. It is possible to do recovery. But if you are always going to play safe, you will not push your limits. You will not grow. We encourage that. Having said that, and we've been fortunate enough to have a lot of long-term key players on our team. We have also had situations where at times they have been lured by others. They have stepped out, come back after 6 months, come back after a year, because you can offer 25% extra wages, but are you able to create the same environment? That's the difficult part.
That is the part I wanted to ask. Why, although I know Ahuja is not officially applied for Incredible Workplace, but let me ask you, why you think Ahuja is an incredible workplace?
I think it has to deal with the culture and the values set up by the owner and the leader, where there is a very deep personal commitment to the people who become a part of the organization. There's a realization that these are the people that actually drive the business. Mrs. Rashmi Ahuja, our founder, she's got a foundation. She's especially committed to encouraging women, and it starts right from a young age. So for a lot of frontline staff that works with us, housekeeping level and stuff, she helps out with the education of young daughters. And when someone joins and shows promise, I have taken that liberty where I see someone who shows great promise. I reach out to her and I tell her that this is someone who has great potential. See, she chooses to mentor the person.
Very nice.
So she may not look over the shoulders all the time, but the fact that she will drop in once in a month, have a very intimate discussion, understand their strengths, their weaknesses, their fears and anxieties makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And Jaideep, on his part, our managing director, a remarkable person, gives you so much of freedom and scope to set up your team and function. Obviously, broad brush strokes we discuss with him, and we have to be aligned and we have to be informed with each other's priorities. But it's an amazing environment to work with. I have had the good fortune all my life to work with remarkable people, starting with Taj, with Marriott, with Hyatt, and now Ahuja Residency. And I must say that this is one of the best opportunities, one of the best environments I have had to work with.
Awesome. I think you did a great job of explaining why Ahuja's culture is incredible. At last, I will ask you, what will be your advice to people who wants to build their career in hospitality industry? And you have seen up and downs, like 30 years is not a joke, right?
Right.
What will be your advice to them?
Interesting question. My advice is going to start off by saying not everyone is expected to be good at everything. So this is an industry which works by its own rules. Most importantly, as you had pointed out, this is a people business. If you're someone who enjoys working with people, the remarkable part of it is if you help create a great experience, you will be able to see it on their faces. They will ask you your name, they will remember your name, and they will show gratitude. Whether they show it with a sincere thank you, whether they hug you, whether they leave you a fat tip, or they put a fantastic post online on Google reviews mentioning your name. But the converse of it is when things go south, they will very clearly show their displeasure. There will be all kinds of variations. And if you're having a bad day, it won't be one. It'll be one after another, and you may have a terrible day with 3, 4 terrible incidents, and that is where you hit your low point. And that's where how strong you are in terms of physically, mentally, emotionally matters. But like I said, if you like working with people, this is a great place to work. Hospitality. Second, this is a place that calls for discipline and stamina. So, even if you're in middle management, if someone is not well at home, your daughter is taking entrance exams, once you clock in for work, you need to leave all your worries and tensions at the door. You can pick it up once you clock out again. But when you step in, and if you are a banquet captain and it's someone's wedding, they expect you to be there 100% in the here and now. That's important. It's not always easy. There are times I have seen people struggling with personal challenges, and I have taken the liberty to tell them as an HOD, please go home. We will, as a team, fill in for whatever needs to be done. But if you're not 100%, don't. Because I had that good fortune to have mentors to work with that extended the same courtesy to me. So this is something that requires you to wake up every morning, make sure you are perfectly dressed up for your job. Make sure that you are 100% committed to what you are doing, whether it is good times or bad times. So it calls for a lot of stamina and discipline each day, every day. You can't grow a ponytail and a beard and come and expect to be taken seriously in a environment that asks you to be in a different, I mean, nothing wrong with growing beard and a ponytail, but every place has its own demands and needs. So there is the stamina and the discipline part. And the last part is that there's no shortcut in this business. There is no substitute for hard work. So when you start, the early days will demand a lot. As you progress, things will shape up and you'll learn more and you'll grow more and things will become easier. But your early days, you have to go through the grind. Last part, which has become all the more important in the last decade, in the last 5 years, and potentially going ahead, is you need to continuously reinvent yourself. You were speaking about digital. I was talking about fragmentation of the industry. It's an ever-changing landscape. So if you think you got it all figured out and you know how to run this, you'd be surprised what will come next, and it might turn the whole story upside down. Whether it be on sales or distribution or service delivery or the product itself.
Yeah, so thank you very much. I think that's a really great insight, and hope that all the audience that are from hospitality or wants to go to hospitality, or in general, even most of our audience are from HR perspective. I think that's important to know how hospital industry looks at people, culture, L&D, and those many stuff. And you also shared a lot of things that I also myself was not aware about hospital industry, at the background, how things works, right? As I said, we always see the front clean, things, but there are a lot of hard work behind, a lot of challenges that you guys go through every single day. So thank you very much for being on this podcast and sharing all this with us, Mr. Rudra.
My pleasure, and the work that you are doing at Incredible Workspaces is so remarkable. We are all inspired, while we may have not applied earlier. Once we make sure that we are fully prepared, hopefully Sonal, our CHRO, will be looking forward to applying and hopefully winning. But yes, we are committed and we share a lot of values that you.
Thank you very much, and really appreciate you sharing everything with us. With that said, we will meet some other guests in other podcasts that we have, but thank you very much for all the insights that you have shared.
My pleasure.